2018 is over, everybody. So let's look back at some of my favorite coasters of 2018. Greetings, roller coaster fanatics. Happy New Year and welcome to 2019. I hope you're enjoying some of the videos after coming back from absolutely nothing. So it's probably nice to have some more videos come up on the channel. And don't worry, the winter break stuff that I did in Texas that you've seen on my Instagram channels, if you've been keeping up with that, will be posted after a couple of these videos along with the other stuff. But 2018 is now over, and like tradition ever since 2016, let's continue on with what were my favorites this year. Although I'm doing something a little bit different this year, just because I'm changing and my views on stuff are changing. So let's just kind of dig in right into this. 2018, I went from 246 roller coaster credits to 281 roller coaster credits. So not as big as a year as I did with 2017, where I went from 180 to 246. So it was kind of a little bit of a smaller year for me. But for what I did in 2018, there was a lot of memorable things. First things off, I got to attend my first ever media day, and that was a Time Traveler Media Day, which was a blast. I absolutely loved it, and I also got to attend Twisted Timbers Media Day. That's how I got this little cool knick-knack right here, which is the Twisted Timbers ticket. Really cool, good stuff there. And so that was really neat. I also had to attend my first ever park outside of America. It was in Europe, in Austria. And it was on a trip that wasn't even designed for parks. We were just stopping there. So it was not a lot of footage, but I still had a blast, and I was able to get 9 credits from the 12 that were there. It was awesome. I also got to hit my first 2 ever Texas parks, Six Flags Fiesta Texas, Six Flags Over Texas, and a lot of cool other things along the way. So while it was a smaller year, the things that I got to do in 2018 were a blast. So let's take a look now at my 10 favorites of 2018. So let's start things off with number 10 in Branson, Missouri, and that is Runaway Mountain Roller Coaster. This is an alpine coaster, and I love this. This thing was ridiculous. Now, it was on a bumpier side. It's not as smooth as the new Branson coaster, which is in the heart of Branson. This alpine coaster was really fast, or it felt fast. It felt like you were gonna fly off at any point. It was ridiculous how much speed it felt like you got, and you were flying through the trees. I love that. It was something that I really liked about Smoky Alpine Coaster, but this one does it on a greater extent, and I was really thrilled with this roller coaster. It's fun. Next up at number 9, we have our first one from Texas. This is down in San Antonio, Superman Krypton Coaster. What an amazing roller coaster. I think this and Dominator are on par for some of my favorites. While Dominator has the speed, this one just has the drops. Dude, the fact that you're dropping off that quarry wall is ridiculous. It is awesome. Back row on this thing, and even front row is awesome. It's one of the few B&Ms that I've rode where I like both back and front equally, because it was just so much fun to dive off that wall. Not once, but twice. And there was even a really cool near-miss effect with one of the supports as you're coming up to do a turnaround on the quarry wall. And just in general, it was so much fun. This is a blast from start to finish. What's also really cool about this coaster, real quick, is that it is also very quiet. You can't hear this thing run at all, and even though it goes 70 miles per hour. Next up, we have our first ever international roller coaster to ever make a list for anything that I've done, and that is the Olympia Looping Coaster. This is by far my favorite Schwarzkopf coaster. While the only flaw that I had with it was that it did have the shoulder restraints, and they were those tiny ones that you see on the Big Apple coaster, which did kind of compress on my shoulders throughout the ride because of how intense this thing is. But other than that, this thing is flawless. The loops are perfection to a huge extent. If you love Mindbender or even Shockwave or Colossus, any of those type of Schwarzkopf, then you are going to adore this ride. It is freaking awesome. And what's really cool about this is it's not just about the loop. While the loops are amazing, even the helixes are really intense and fun. You just are flat out enjoying yourself the entire ride. It was definitely the highlight of hitting this park, besides the fact that this park also had a side friction coaster. This was just amazing, and the sheer amount of luck that I had that I got to ride this thing was insane. I was not expecting to ride anything close to this, so I was greatly pleased, and it lived up to the hype. Next up, we have at number 7, back in Missouri, we have the brand new coaster for 2018, Time Traveler. This is amazing. From start to finish, it is a blast. This was one of my first coasters to start off 2018, and boy, howdy, I'm so glad it was. This thing is fan-freaking-tastic. The spin is just perfect. It's not too much, it's not too little, and every single element in there is just awesome. The fact that you immediately start off with an amazing 90-degree drop, and if you're in the back row, get ready to be ejected out of your seat. It is insane in the back row on this coaster. The really cool thing about this is that you're spinning while going upside down. It is such a weird feeling to do a vertical loop sideways. It was so interesting, it was so new to me, or even doing a 0G roll or barrel roll through that was awesome. And if you want airtime, there's a really cool pop of airtime as it does a big twist. You just get everything through it, and even the launches, when you're backwards, you can feel some speed to them. I really liked this. Overall, this coaster was just a flat-out huge success with Silver Dollar City, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm so glad that this coaster exists. Number 6 is going to be a huge shocker for a lot of enthusiasts. This is, right now, the most underrated roller coaster, in my opinion, that I've ever rode. We are going down to Arlington, Texas for Titan. Whoa, I was not expecting it to be that good. I knew I was expecting something great, but I did not think it would be as good as I thought it would be. The intensity is insane. At one point on this ride, it was so intense that it slammed my hands down. It was intense, or it felt as intense as Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. It was insane. Now, I didn't black out or gray out at all like a lot of other people were doing, but I could feel the intensity. It was ridiculous. And the airtime hill, you get a lot of flagector. Well, that's a weird word, but it exists, so I'm going to use it. You get amazing amount of airtime. Now, the thing with this is what I was hoping Raging Bull would be, and it wasn't. This was not an airtime machine, but it just made up for it with intensity. Now, my only flaw with this coaster was not that it slowed all the way down, because the thing is, it maintained a good amount of speed that it didn't really matter to me. What mattered to me was the fact it slammed so hard that it was really painful. Like, it compressed me, the fact that, because we're probably going some 70 miles per hour, we just slammed to a hole. So that kind of was a little bit painful. But it didn't dim down the second half at all, because the second half is just as intense. I mean, that double helix right there is ridiculous. It's like we never lost speed, and that was so cool about this ride. Alright, here we go, the top 5. Number 5 is also at Six Flags Over Texas, New Texas Giant, the original RMC. This thing was a blast. Now, for me, front row was not a big shocker for me, but middle row, row 7, which is one of my favorite rows in RMCs, and even the back row, which I'm not a big fan of back rows, but the Gerstlauer trains are fantastic. They're my favorite trains on any RMCs. They're so comfortable, and the lap bar is really comfortable too. Dude, this thing, middle and back, is ridiculous. The first half blew me away. It was insane. The fact that on some of those big turns you get whipped into them is really awesome, and you get ejected out of your seat on those airtime hills. While the second half was a little bit more lackluster than the first half, it was still really breathtaking, and I still enjoyed it. I like how it had a lot of positive G's, which felt very different, especially positive G's with laterals. So while you're kind of being forced to decide like on old classic wooden roller coasters. Overall, this thing was a blast, and I really like this roller coaster. May I just say real quick, I will let you guys know that the rest of the coasters from here on out are all RMCs, because I rode a lot of new RMCs this year. Number 4 is also in Texas, Wonder Woman. Whoa. What a ride. And I like with New Texas Giant. The front row for me was great, but because I had broad shoulders, the restraints were a little bit more tough on me than I would say most people would say. So that was one factor that was unfortunate, but that didn't take away from the beauty that is this ride. This thing is a masterpiece. Whoa. My gosh, that is insane. Now, some people say it's on the shorter side, and while how I can agree with that, like with Goliath, it packed so much in that it didn't really matter that it was short because so much was packed in. And by golly, back row on this thing, dudes, back row on this thing is one of the most insane experiences I've ever experienced on a coaster. It was ridiculous. It just would not let up. It kept getting more and more insane. So back row, in my opinion, was my favorite spot on this coaster. It was ridiculous. Alrighty, number 3 is in my home state, Virginia. We have a King's Dominion Twisted Timbers. I knew you guys were probably expecting this because how could I have not ridden this in 2018? What another masterpiece. What I also like with this and the Gerstlauer trains is that these trains are a little bit more comfortable than the second gen RMCs, which I definitely had a big gripe with the restraint system on those. And so the third generation restraints on this are much better, although I prefer the Gerstlauer just a little bit more. This is still great, and I had an amazing experience. This thing is butter smooth from start to finish. It is great, it is fast, it is awesome. I love going upside down while dropping, and the airtime on this is some of my favorite airtime on an RMC period. Even my number 1 coaster that I got to ride in 2018, I prefer the airtime on this than I do on my number 2 and number 1, because the airtime on this thing is ridiculous. It's so awesome, but not painful. It's almost there, but not there. So that's why I really enjoy this. It was so much fun, and the airtime is phenomenal. If you're looking for an airtime machine, this is it. Now, number 2 is back in Texas, Six Flags Fiesta Texas. We have Iron Rattler. Oh, whoa. Like with Wonder Woman, I was blown away. Dudes, every single row on this, same with Twisted Timbers too, every single row in this was amazing. Front row was spectacular. Middle row was spectacular. Row 7, which is still one of my favorites. And back row was spectacular on this thing. This is my favorite drop on any RMC, period. It is so insane because it's one of the few RMC coasters where the drop feels like it lasts forever, and this drop has a huge impact to the ride. Unlike most RMCs where the drop isn't really the thing about the ride, this one, it is. Dives off that wall curve, and then at the end you turn the other direction, and you just feel the speed, and the airtime is ridiculous on this thing. You just are flying through the course. The airtime is amazing, and even on that top part, where even in some POVs it may look lackluster, when you actually ride it, you feel a lot of speed, and you feel all the twists and turns. It is awesome, and that tunnel is scary. I thought I actually had to put my hands down, because you can't see a thing in that tunnel. It is pitch black, and the finale right there, the huge amount of airtime. It is breathless. Definitely one of my favorite RMCs out there. And the other RMC that I like just a little bit more was Steel Vengeance in Sandusky at Cedar Point. This, it lived up to the animations. This thing truly lived up to all the expectations that this thing was thrown at it. The first half for me is the most insane thing, like Wonder Woman, is one of the most insane things on this freaking planet. It is insane how fast you're going, how much intensity you're getting, and the beautiful airtime that you are given. It is rarely rare that I actually get an insane adrenaline like I did on the first half of this thing. And the fact that you have no idea where you're going at times. One of my favorite inversions is the first inversion right there, because you fly through it, and then you get put into an amazing stall right there afterwards too, those are my favorite inversions on the ride. It's ridiculous. The airtime is insane. It can get a little painful, but if you're one of those type of people that don't care about just a little bit of pain, then you're gonna love this ride. Now for me, when I rode this, they were having the speed through the mid-course, so I will say the second half was a little bit lackluster. It felt more Twisted Timbers, which is amazing, but for what the first half given me, and the second half kind of fell back a little bit, it was a little bit disappointing, but I don't let that bother me too much, because in reality, this thing is a masterpiece, and what this coaster achieved in the time that it does is freaking awesome. I like how there's a lot of ejector, a little bit of floater, and a little bit of a mix. Now, like I said, the second half for me wasn't as intense. It was a little bit lackluster, but the first half in general just blew my mind to an insane extent. And now that's not to mention that the final airtime moments on this thing are ridiculous. The last turn and then all the airtime after that is insane. And I will say the airtime in the second half is insane. It's just the fact that it's not as fast or intense when I rode it anyway. And that's why I stress favorites and best, because the thing is, everybody's gonna have a different experience. And what I'm here to do is just to basically show off what my favorites were to you guys. And I know that a lot of people will have different tastes. A lot of people disagree with what I said about Steel Vengeance, because a lot of people say Steel Vengeance is one of the best things ever, and that's totally fine. You rode it probably at a different time than when I rode it. And I've known a lot of people that say that Twisted Timbers is actually better than Steel Vengeance, and hey, they're allowed to say that. And that's what's really cool. They think, because of their personal taste, they prefer Twisted Timbers over Steel Vengeance. That's possible. So thank you guys for watching my 10 favorite coasters that I got to ride for the first time in 2018. So as you noticed, this was not new coasters that debuted in 2018. These were just new credits that I obtained in 2018, and those are my 10 favorites. Now, to end this out, what I was talking about earlier is that I'm not going to really do a video on my least favorites. One, because nowadays, I like almost everything. It's really hard for me to extremely dislike a coaster nowadays, and even in my past videos, I kind of exaggerated a lot of it. There's a lot of coasters that I definitely do not like, but I don't hate them, and I don't say they're the worst things ever. But I still rode some trash stuff in 2018, and here are just the 3 coasters that I definitely made my dishonorable mentions. First off, the Wild Mouse at Prater Park was insanely painful. It was kind of hard to enjoy. I laughed my butt off the entire time because it was bad but good at the same time. So I still enjoyed the coaster, but it was insanely bad. Next one was a coaster that I hit at Adventure Park USA in Maryland. I think it's called Adventure Express or something like that. This thing was ridiculously painful. And what's insane is I've ridden the Clone at Over Texas, Runaway Mountain, which was butter smooth and awesome. But this was really bad. I did not enjoy it at all. And then finally, what is actually my least favorite coaster of all time now, and that is the Zamperla Volare, and this was at Prater Park in Austria. Dude, this thing was bad. Go look at the POV that I have of it on the park visit. Dude, it's one of my favorite POVs because of my reaction when it first started off. It's bad. It's as bad as everybody said it would be, and wow, I definitely would ride an SLC over that any day. So there you guys have it. Those are just my favorites and some dishonorable mentions that I had in 2018. Now, what I want to hear from you guys in the comments, what were your new favorites that you got to ride in 2018? What coaster stayed out to you? I'd love to hear where Steel Vengeance ranks for you guys. I'm guessing #1, but I'd like to hear if it's not #1 new credit in 2018. What did you guys prefer? I want to know your guys' thoughts. And please, hit that like button and smash subscribe for more videos like this on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, Roller Coaster Fanatics, keep coasting.